What would you do if the person you loved most was cornered by hate, with no one to stand in its way? On a humid summer evening in Atlanta, that question became all too real for Maya Johnson. She stood on the cracked sidewalk outside her small grocery store, her hands trembling but her voice steady, confronting Officer Daniel Holt. The air was thick with tension, the kind that clings to your skin and makes your heart race. Holt, a veteran cop with a reputation for trouble, had stopped Maya for no reason other than the color of her skin. His accusations were vague, something about a suspicious person, but his aggression was clear. He loomed over her, his fist clenched, ready to strike. Maya, a 38-year-old mother and entrepreneur, had faced prejudice before. Growing up in a neighborhood where trust in uniforms was scarce, she'd learned to carry herself with quiet strength. But tonight, Holt's eyes burned with a hatred she couldn't reason with. "You don't belong here," he spat, stepping closer. The street was empty, the nearest bystanders too far to help. Maya's heart pounded, but she refused to back down. "I own this store," she said, her voice cutting through the dusk. "You have no right." Holt's fist rose, and time seemed to slow. She braced herself, knowing the blow was coming. Then, a voice sliced through the silence. "Step away from her." Now, it was deep, commanding, and unmistakably familiar. Maya's husband, Marcus, emerged from the shadows of the street, his presence like a storm breaking. Tall and broad-shouldered, he wore a tailored suit that contrasted sharply with the chaos of the moment. In his hand gleamed an FBI badge, its weight undeniable. Behind him, two agents in tactical gear flanked his sides, their radios crackling with authority. Holt froze, his fist still raised, his face twisting from rage to confusion. But the real twist came not from Marcus's arrival, nor from the badge that shifted the power in an instant. It came from the woman who stepped forward from the gathering crowd, her phone still recording. Mrs. Clara Evans, a 70-year-old retiree who lived above Maya's store, had been watching from her window. She'd seen Holt's harassment before too many times. Her frail hands shook as she held up her phone, her voice steady despite her age. "I've got it all," she said, her eyes locked on Holt. "Every word, every move. You're done." The crowd murmured, phones now raised, capturing the moment. Clara, a quiet neighbor who'd always kept to herself, had just turned the tide. Marcus's gaze never left Holt. "Officer, you're under investigation for misconduct and racial profiling," he said, his voice calm but laced with steel. "My team's been watching you for weeks." The words hit like a gavel. Holt's face drained of color as the reality sank in. He'd targeted Maya, thinking she was an easy mark, unaware that her husband was a senior FBI agent leading a task force on police misconduct. The backup agents moved forward, their presence a silent promise of accountability. Maya, still shaken, stepped toward Marcus. Their eyes met, a silent exchange of love and resilience. She'd held her ground, not because she knew Marcus was coming, but because she refused to let hate win. Clara's courage had amplified that strength, proving that justice wasn't just in badges or titles, it was in the courage of ordinary people who chose to act. The crowd, now buzzing with whispers, began to clap, a slow ripple that grew into a wave. Holt was led away, his badge no longer a shield. As the streetlights flickered on, Maya and Marcus stood together, her hand in his. Clara, still clutching her phone, gave Maya a note, a quiet bond forged in that moment. The fight wasn't over, but tonight, they'd won. They'd shown that hate could be met with courage, that justice could rise from unexpected places. And as the crowd dispersed, the weight of that truth lingered in the air, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's always someone ready to stand up. Yindi.